Hi guys, welcome to Cairnsology. Today we're going to be looking at sand. It's always on the move. Where's it going? Sand has been accumulating into the Trinity Inlet for many millennia. In fact, the city's built on this stuff. Yet, we still seem surprised when we see these fluctuations. So, let's break it down into some simple steps. Let's look at the source of the sand. Let's look how it's transported. Let's look at the trap, how the sands are caught, and then let's look at the preservation, how we preserve our beaches and our sand. So let's look at the source of this sand. Queensland's blessed with many big, powerful rivers. Up in our part of the world, we've got the Mulgrave and the Barron very close to us. The Barron River, in particular, produces about somewhere in between 30 and 50,000, sometimes up to 80,000 cubic metres of pure sand, breakdown from the granites and the sandstones up in the range, and feeds it out the river mouth, and then heading north with the longshore drift, heading up towards Palm Cove and Port Douglas. Whilst I mentioned the longshore drift, let's talk more about the transport of sand in and out of Trinity Bay. We have the longshore drift, which is largely driven from the trade winds from the southeast, driving sand up the Queensland coast from the south to a north direction, picking up on all these rivers, moving sand northward. As it comes around Grafton Point, follows the point around, and then we've got a little bit of a splitting of different sand here. So some of the sand does make it around to, as you can see here, there's a bit of a spit. This photo is from 2004, but largely the sand gets driven across the bay through the shipping channel and then onto where the Barron River mouth is, and then driven further up the coast. However, this isn't always the case. We do have different winds during our wet season. Tropical cyclones obviously have an influence as well. We have a bit of a anti-clockwise sort of swirling inside of the Trinity Bay at times of the year as well. We do get a small amount of sand inflow from the Trinity Inlet itself, but predominantly mud. We also get a little bit of sand that from time to time during the year, depending on what the river mouth looks like, it feeds around into the Trinity Bay itself as well, into the inlet, but largely heads along the coast northward towards Palm Cove. During the wet season, you do get some jetting of water and sand out of the Trinity Inlet and also out of the Barron River. So you can see here, this is probably taken mid-year after a wet season, and we do have quite a bit of sand around the Barron River mouth here. And we can see the plumes of sand moving northward with the longshore drift at that time of the year. But largely missing Machan's Beach and Holloways, but probably more hitting the coast up towards Yorkeys and up towards Palm Cove. There's probably no better example of this transport of sand at the Cairns Esplanade. So as we can see here, this is a pretty early photo from 2004. Not long after the lagoon pool was built and established. And here we can see a nice beautiful beach along here in front of the lagoon. Now, as I turn off the aerial photos, we can see this sand move. So this was 2008, 2011. We can see this sand moving. So this is 2013, 15, 16. It's almost gone. 17, 18, and 19. Just referencing the earlier photo of the thicker beach at the Cairns Esplanade in the historic photos. In the 1930s, the meandering river mouth of the Barron River actually changed course to its present location, but previously to that, it fed straight through, basically under where the airport is, and straight into the Trinity Inlet, feeding the sand more directly into the inlet. Moving on to trap sites. There are many artificial and natural trap sites for sand along the coast as the sand moves northward. Here at Holloway's Beach, we can see this artificial one here that was established sometime prior to 2004. And when we turn the latest satellite image on, we can see that sand preservation along there. These things do work, but obviously they hold sand up from further along the beach. And we can see some natural ones, particularly Yorkeys Knob is a good example of this as well, where the sand's sort of hidden behind a natural or natural headland here. So what can we do to preserve our beaches, to keep sand on them? It's good to see that the Cairns Council is re-nourishing some portions of the sand. It's probably important to keep in mind, in my opinion, that we're transporting sand from a northerly location to a southerly location, because otherwise we end up just with a gap in our beaches. It's also to make sure that the sand is also flowing down. So we're regulating the amount of water that comes down rivers like the Barron to keep the sand cubic metres up coming through the river mouth and out onto our beaches. Thanks very much for watching my first video. Hopefully you enjoyed this Cairnsology episode 1. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hit like if you want to see some more stuff.